Good morning and welcome to the Board of County Commissioners agenda setting and work session for November 3rd, 2020. If you'd like to join in and listen via phone, the phone number is 360-252-9020 and the extension is 1234. I'm John Hutchings, the chair of the board. We also have present Vice Chair Commissioner Ty Mincer, County Manager Ramiro Chavez. I see Public Health and Social Services Director Shelley Slaughter in the screen. And we have a host of others that will be coming in and out throughout the morning. Let me see. I think that's about it. We also have the clerk of the board, Amy Davis, in the boardroom, I would imagine. And so with that.
And Megan Porter, our PIO.
Megan Porter, yay. So with that, let's start with a COVID-19 update, and I'll turn to Shelley Slaughter, our Public Health and Social Services Director.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I'm Shelley Slaughter, Director of Thurston County Public Health and Social Services. So this week's COVID-19 update, I'm sorry to say, isn't better news. It has once again been the highest week of COVID-19 cases that we have experienced in Thurston County since this pandemic began. To date, there have been 1,933 Thurston County residents test positive for COVID-19, with 167 in the last week. There have been 34 deaths, with 4 of those deaths occurring in the last week. To date, 140 people have been hospitalized, with 12 new hospitalizations in the last week. Our current hospital capacity is at 85%. 5% of the hospital beds available in Thurston County at our 2 major hospitals are at 5% capacity with COVID patients. In terms of testing, to date, there have been 59,619 COVID-19 tests of Thurston County residents. That makes our positivity rate in the last week 3.6%. Testing is available in our community at many locations, including the Providence Hawks Prairie drive-through site, as well as Thurston County Public Health's community-based testing sites. This week, we did free COVID-19 testing in Tenino. Today, we will be at Rochester Organization of Families in Roof, and tomorrow we will be at Interfaith Works. In terms of outbreaks, we have 3 in adult family homes, 2 in assisted living, and 2 in nursing facilities that we are currently investigating. And with that, I will pause for questions. Our health officer, Dr. Abdelmalik, is not able to join us today.
All right, thank you, Shelley. Ty, you have any questions or comments?
I do not. I've been tracking this through the week. Thank you, Shelley.
I do, Shelley, and it's I'm not sure you can answer this. You might be able to answer a piece of it because it's going to be a slew of questions lumped into one. With Idaho on fire, and they're busting their hospital capacity, and it's reported over the weekend that some of their patients will be coming into Washington. And hospitals can't refuse, I understand it, can't refuse medical attention or help to someone, even though there's a great distance between Thurston County and Spokane or Idaho. How do we prevent our hospitals from being overloaded from outside areas or jurisdictions to make sure that we have capacity for our citizens?
That's a really great question. Overall, in Washington State, we currently have sufficient hospital capacity statewide and a really strong network of hospitals that work together to ensure that capacity is stable and that we can divert people when certain areas get overwhelmed by others. Part of our phase 3 plan was to, or our phase 3 requirement is to ensure that our local hospitals reserve 20% surge capacity in the event that we have an increase in COVID-19 cases or other types of events that may put pressure on our hospitals. Our hospitals are already, as you know, a regional hub in Southwest Washington. And so oftentimes we are supporting and caring for patients from other areas. And likewise, at certain times, our hospitals need to transfer patients to other area hospitals. But in terms of how we're at in Thurston County, we work very closely with our hospitals, and we're watching our capacity and our PPE and staffing very closely to ensure that we can get through these challenging times that we have ahead, especially as flu season picks up. Our hospitals are typically already really full here in Thurston County. So we're working closely to make sure that there are great plans in place to help make sure that Thurston County residents have access to hospital care when they need it. So currently we're okay, and it's something that everyone is working on together.
Okay, I'll go back to it. Yeah, I understand currently we're okay. And the recommendation is to keep 20% capacity. But if we get squeezed from Idaho, if we get squeezed from Clark County, who's getting squeezed by Portland, and we get squeezed from King going into Pierce and coming into Thurston, how do we ensure that we have capacity for our local citizens, or can we?
Well, I think that we can through that good surge planning that our local hospitals have. So, and Washington State also, coordinates very well with other states when they need care, and priority is for Washington State residents and Thurston County residents. I think overall, though, as a country, it's something that we are concerned about, hospital capacity nationwide. So that's something that we'll continue to work on. And we had a lot of lessons learned earlier on in the pandemic as to strategies that we can invoke if necessary to ensure that hospital beds and emergency department beds are available for those who critically need it.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Edwards, we started about 8 minutes ago, so I don't know if you missed this, but do you have any questions of Shelley?
No, I've got the whole report in front of me. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you.
And now we're going to move on to our homeless strategies with Keely Marino. There's Keely. Yay. Go ahead, Keely.
Good morning. There's Keely Marino from Public Health and Social Services in the office today, not out in the rain, thankfully. I'd like to do a quick update on the eviction prevention and rental assistance program that Community Action Council is running. So far, they've had 1,087 appointments and served 588 households through that program. They've allocated and funded out almost $1.9 million already. So they're really cooking. They've done a lot of work to ensure that the folks in our community can get the help that they need if they're behind in their rent or concerned about being able to pay next month's rent. Cold weather shelter season also began officially on the 1st of November. Typically, cold weather shelter season runs from November 1st of a year through April 30th of the following year. And in all other years, that would, mean that there would be an increase in shelter bed capacity to accommodate those who are trying to come inside due to the cold or hazardous weather. However, due to COVID-19, that increase is not necessarily happening. And as a reminder, we do not have identified a single adult shelter provider that is standing up those extra beds. We do instead have a sheltering in place enhanced program this year to ensure that those folks that are not able to come into shelter due to there being such a low count in shelter beds will at least have access to survival gear throughout the winter. We do have an increase in beds, though. Sacred Heart and St. Michael's Parish was able to stand up their seasonal shelter. So we're very grateful to St. Michael's and Sacred Heart for ensuring that I believe it's 20 male individuals needing housing or shelter Monday through Thursday will be at St. Mike's, and then 14 males can go to Sacred Heart's Parish on Thursday or Friday through Sunday. So super grateful for their help. Ensign Road, the update on that is that following the letter from the Attorney General and the efforts of City of Olympia last Tuesday, they have moved forward with not ticketing any of the remaining individuals that are living or residing along Ensign Road at this time. They're creating some sort of parking permit program for those individuals to ensure that they will not be ticketed in a no parking zone, because now it is a no parking zone along Ensign Road. So they're working with those residents to ensure that those folks that need to stay there currently for whatever reason, that they're supported. And then of course our office and City of Olympia are working together to come up with and City of Lacey to come up with a plan for a safe parking program. We're still at the beginning stages of that. We've had some really excellent, exciting conversations, and I've been in touch with some of the providers locally that may be willing or have the capacity to help support and staff that program. So those conversations are well underway. Once we have something concrete to report, I will do so. But I feel encouraged that we will have something for our folks living in vehicles in our county here shortly.
Ty, any questions or comments of Keely?
Yes, how many, you said the ones who are left, what percentage of the ones that were there have left of their own accord? Or I know Lindsay was trying to work with those folks individually.
So I just reached out to Teal Russell, the Olympia homeless coordinator, this morning, and she counted 32 vehicles are remaining on Ensign Road currently. That's down from upwards of 45 to 50.
Okay, and then the other thing, earlier in your presentation, you said something about shelter numbers being low. Do you mean beds because of the cold weather, or are you talking about actual people in the shelters?
No, I'm sorry. Some nuanced language there. What I mean is that there's been about a 50% reduction in beds across our homeless crisis response system in order to safely practice physical distancing. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Perfect. I just want to make sure I understand. Not perfect, that's not good, but I want to make sure I understand. And thank you.
Absolutely.
I just have two quick questions. You mentioned, you might not have the answer to this, Keely. You said Olympia stopped ticketing or citing those folks out there. Had they been ticketing them?
No, they never did ticket anyone. There was a lot of confusion that day, making sure that we were giving the right message to the folks that are staying on Ensign Road. And by the evening on Tuesday evening last week, it was determined that those remaining would not be ticketed moving forward.
And finally, you said that between you and Teal, you've been working with the City of Lacey. What's Lacey's involvement at this point regarding safe parking?
Well, we've worked with staff members from City of Lacey as members of the technical team for the Regional Housing Council. And so we've just had a handful of conversations last week discussing what that might look like. So that staff member will be taking that information back to his council, and then I'm sure there will be a robust presentation at this month's Regional Housing Council.
Okay, so Lacey is in the conversation then.
Correct.
Very good. Commissioner Edwards, questions or comments?
Keely, by any chance, do you know the number of how many folks that have been tested and came down positive with this virus from the homeless community and maybe are being quarantined in one of our facilities?
I do not know hard numbers, but we did meet with the quarantine and isolation staff yesterday to discuss just our weekly meetup. And from that report, Kate Ashworth, who is the lead for the quarantine and isolation efforts at the county, has stated that at this point, not a single houseless individual who has come to the testing events has ended up testing positive. And I was more involved by July of this year. I haven't been as involved since that point. And up to that point, there were very few numbers of individuals that were out from the houseless community. There have been no outbreaks inside a shelter as far as I'm aware at this point. And so they remain COVID-free at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else, Ty? No, then we're done. Keely, thank you very kindly.
All right, thank you so much.
Now we're at the point of this agenda to talk about the review of this afternoon's agenda for November 3rd, 2020. We'll call the meeting to order at 2 o'clock and the Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Commissioner Edwards. approval of the agenda and the board meeting minutes from last week, and then public comment. And any idea, Romero, about public comment, what might be coming?
Yes, I was just given a heads up. You will be receiving public testimony on the proposal that you have today, and that is item 8A, and that is related to a request from the City of Olympia related to the micro shelters. And also, I was given a heads up that you will be receiving public testimony related to the sales tax.
To what, sales tax?
Yeah, sales tax.
Okay. Okay. Commissioners, anything?
No, sir.
No? Okay. County manager update or follow-up?
I don't have any specific updates.
All right, that takes us to agenda item number, did I cut you off?
No, sir.
Consent items, 3A is the financial services voucher list. And we'll go right into department items. Agenda item number 4, the Auditor Center for Tech and Civic Life Elections Grant 2.
Yeah, Commissioners, this is a brand new item, and in the sense of urgency is for you to consider accepting additional money from the Center for Technology and Civic Life. A couple of weeks ago, you authorized to receive $160,000. This particular proposal is to receive an additional $185,000. It really is going to help us to go through and respond to the voting needs. And today, as voting day, then it's just appropriate for you to consider this particular request. Some of the items, they perhaps may be funded by the additional money. It will include a van, a tax trailer, tax barriers, and as well as a generator that will be utilized to support election day and elections overall. Diana Benson from the Auditor's Office is here if you'd like to have additional questions related to this proposal. Again, you reviewed this funding source maybe a couple, 3 weeks ago. And again, you authorized to receive $160,000 at that time. This time around, we receive an additional $185,000 from the same funding source.
Okay. And we got Joe here. Any questions of Diana? I voted Diana.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Diana, what was for the public, what type of group is the Center for Tech and Civic Life? Is it a government group or a private group?
Up, you're muted. You're unmuted, but I can't hear you. Is that on your end, Romero?
No. Maybe I can answer that question. This is a nonprofit organization, and you may recall this conversation was related to the CEO of Facebook is one of the main donors of this particular nonprofit. And this nonprofit Center for Technology and Civic Life is really geared to provide grants across the country to local governments to support elections. Did I answer your question, Commissioner?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Go ahead, Ty.
I remember the funding source discussion, but I guess given that today's election day, are we allowed to use this for reimbursed expenditures, or is it something that we'll be able to use going forward, or how's that work?
Let me see if I can veg, since Diana has some issues with that. The audio. Yes, for both. It will be for reimbursement basis as well as for future efforts.
Okay.
Correct. And these reimbursements, or this grant, can be used to reimburse costs that were incurred from.
Hey, Joe, can you introduce yourself?
Introduce yourself, Joe.
Sorry. This is Joe Wolf with Auditor's Office Financial Services. And I just wanted to add to that this can be used to reimburse election costs from July 1 through December 31st. So we do have some time to incur costs for future elections as well.
Very good. Any other questions, Ty?
Nope.
Gary?
No, sir.
Nothing? Okay. Good. Thank you both for joining us. 5A, setting a public hearing for telecommunications franchise.
This item that you reviewed last week, this related for you to consider an application for a renewal of a telecommunications franchise agreement with Astot Broadband LLC. This is again a renew application. For this particular items for you to consider setting a public hearing for December 1st, 2020. And then after depending on the public testimony, then you may consider approving the application. Last week, Commissioner Menser asked a couple of questions related to what will be the purview, perhaps what would be the options the commissioners have related to any particular franchise application that you received. We have done some research, and I don't want to steal the thunder, and Patty Rosetta is going to walk you through at least from our perception as to what the answers to that question was. And I'll be more than happy to fill in.
I was going to say, I actually haven't heard
Hey,
officially.
Patty,
Yeah.
introduce yourself, pretty please. Thank you.
Good morning, commissioners. I'm Patty Rosetta with the Commissioner's Office. I haven't heard officially from Grace the actual answers to some of those, Romero, so I'm not sure what's correct.
Yeah, we can just go through and see what we have, knowing that perhaps Grace needs to confirm.
Okay, so as far as if it was denied, if we deny the application, my understanding is that they would still operate within our right-of-ways. We just wouldn't have control over making sure everything was uniform. Would that be a fair assessment?
Yeah, and maybe that goes back to the nature of a franchise agreement. And the franchise agreement gives us the opportunity to determine the roles and responsibilities between the county and a utility provider as to how they're going to be operating, managing their utilities within the county's right away. Absent a franchise agreement, that doesn't mean, and this is just my perception, that they will stop operating in the county's right away, because there's already an existing facility there. So, and that is probably what we need to get a clear, this is just my perspective based on what we have gone through in the past few years. And again, in this particular case, is a renewal of the franchise agreement. And I believe that it is important to have this franchise agreement in place to understand what the roles and responsibilities are, both of the provider as well as of the county as they use the county's right away. See that Grace is here. Do you want to add anything related to that, Grace?
Yeah, Commissioner Menser, you had asked a few questions after Patty presented last week. Did you, and I had answered some of those via email, were those passed on to you? Okay, say yes.
About this, unless it came in yesterday, I was working from home.
Those responses was given to Patty, yeah.
Okay, so you had asked, you had wondered, what should the commissioners consider in reviewing these applications? And I thought that the most important thing for you to know is that our outside counsel, Ken Fellman, has reviewed this application for completeness, and he would advise that it's fine to approve the application. Of course, we still need to have the public hearing, and you may hear public comment at the public hearing that gives you pause or gives you additional information. So knowing that Ken's recommendation is that it's fine to approve, that comes with the caveat that we have not yet had the public hearing that we have to have by law. So today's agenda item is just for you to set the public hearing, which again, we have to do by law. Yesterday, Patty asked via Romero, what happens if you deny the application? Can the company still be here? And that's actually kind of an unsettled question of law in Washington right now. I'm happy to talk more about that at some point if you would like to hear more about that. But I think to Romero's point, having a franchise in place sets like the basic ground rules for the relationship that we have with the company in terms of what they're actually going to be doing. That comes at the permitting stage. So this isn't the only opportunity that the county has to review what the company will be doing within our rights of way. the more granular level details come when they apply for a permit for a specific project. And I think that goes to another question that you asked last week, Commissioner Menzer.
I would assume that if there was that the agreement that's been prepared is consistent with other agreements, and if there were unusual aspects, that would be brought to our attention by council. Is that accurate?
That's correct. And we haven't actually negotiated the franchise agreement with the company yet. This is just simply reviewing their application to enter into a franchise agreement with us. So the franchise agreement, if you approve the application after the public comment, then you would also direct staff to commence negotiations with the company to enter into a franchise agreement, which we would again be assisted with by our outside counsel, Kissinger Feldman, on telecom issues. Sorry, go ahead.
Another question I remember asking last week, and I guess it's kind of implicit in your answers, but it's, I guess it's not a consideration for us how many folks, like there's no limit, any group can come and apply. We don't have to worry about how many of these we've granted in the past or how many different telecommunications companies are operating in the right of way. That's not something we need to worry about.
Right. We do need to treat telecommunication under the law. We need to treat them. We can't discriminate amongst telecommunication companies. So if we give a franchise to one, we have to have a pretty good reason for not giving the same franchise to another. So that is a limitation that we have under the law. So to your question, I mean, no, we don't have to worry about how many folks are operating within our county boundaries. We just have to make sure that we're treating similarly situated companies the same.
But it might be a situation in which physical conditions as to where a utility might go may prevent that from happening, but that's a little bit different than denying the access within the county's right of way.
Correct. And again, at the permitting stage, it might be a little bit different. Like if a company came and wanted to do a project that for whatever reason CPED did not think could happen or shouldn't happen in our county right of way, then that would be a separate question.
Okay. I think that covers most of what I was curious about. Thank you.
Before I turn it over to Gary, let me I just kind of point out, I'm tracking that this is to set a public hearing for December 1st. 6A is setting a public hearing for December 1st. And 8D is setting a public hearing for December 1st. And already on the 1st is another public hearing. So we're gonna have 4 at this point back to back. I just want to be sure that we're all tracking that.
And yeah, the item 6A for your consideration is at 5:30.
Right, I saw that.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
and it will be similar to on November 17th, when you have maybe sort of a handful of public hearings for your consideration, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
We'll make
Patty,
sure.
thank you. Grace, thank you very much. Gary, do you have any questions or comments?
I guess just so the public knows that I don't believe there's any revenue generated during this agreement. If
No, it isn't.
municipalities are allowed to collect revenue for utilities and such, but counties are not. Is that right?
I can answer that, Romero, if you'd like me to.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, we can collect, I'm not sure about other kinds of utilities, but strictly talking about telecom, we can collect franchise fees on cable franchises, but generally we have not collected franchise fees on other kinds of telecom franchises like wireless, broadband, wireline franchises, of which this one we're talking about today, Astound, would be one. But again, it's kind of an unsettled area of law as to whether or not we can collect fees on non-cable telecom franchises. And historically, we have decided not to push that issue. So that's where we're at with that.
Yeah, I guess the one that is pending is the Comcast agreement, which is related to the fees that we receive from Comcast.
Yeah, and that's a cable franchise,
Yeah.
so we are allowed under law to receive fees for that.
But when we do grant these easements or whatever they're called, I guess. It is a service to the public that gives them a better service than they would have without it, I guess.
Yeah, I think, that's a policy call for the commissioners to decide, but certainly telecom infrastructure is an important piece of modern life, and especially right now, as we know.
Okay, thank you.
Grace, Patty, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to 6A is setting a public hearing for comp plan docket, recycling asphalt.
Yeah, commissioners, for your consideration is for you to set a public hearing for December 1st, 2020, 5:30 afternoon, where you'll be receiving public testimony related to the comprehensive plan docket item CP11, which is related to the recycle asphalt policy amendment. The board held work sessions to review the proposed amendments and consider the Planning Commission recommendations on October 29, 2020. And at that briefing, you may recall the majority of the board director staff to move forward with setting a public hearing for you to receive public testimony related to this item before you may consider taking a final action. The Planning Commission held 3 work sessions in July 15, August 5th, and September 2nd of 2020. And a public hearing was held on October 7, 2020. The Planning Commission produced recommendations of approval of the proposed amendment, as you may recall, under option number 3. And it was a unanimous vote, 9-0 from the Planning Commission. Maya Tipol provided to the board the briefing last week, and she's here to answer any questions related to this proposal to set a public hearing.
And it was a great briefing, Maya. Thank you. Commissioner Edwards, any questions or comments?
No, sir.
Hi.
I think I heard Ramiro say the board held work sessions, plural, and we had one session of 1 hour last week. So based on comments I made last week, Commissioner Edwards will need to make this motion today.
I'm sorry, Commissioner, I stated the Planning Commission held 3 work sessions. You're right. The board only had 1 briefing.
Okay, and I have nothing. Thank you. Thank you, Maya. Number 7A, interlocal agreement for the City of Tumwater Indigent Defense Legal Services.
Yeah, Commissioners, to review this item, and this is related to the contract interlocal agreement that we have with the City of Tumwater, where the Office of Public Defense provides services to cases related within the City of Tumwater when those individuals are in need of indigent defense. This particular contract is for a total cost of $550,300, and it will go from January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2022, a 2-year period. Part of the conversation last week is this is a reduction on the agreement, where in the past it was supporting 2 public defenders. With this new agreement, it will be supporting 1 public defender. I mentioned to you that internally we have a plan, and where Patrick O'Connor, which is present today, has developed on a strategy. No public defenders will be affected by this contract, and in fact, as you may recall, the model that he put in place a few years ago, where contract attorney cases will be brought in to be managed by internal public defenders, and that is the strategy behind this, where I believe some of the cases related to juvenile court will be brought into the public defender staff, and as a result, the contract attorney cases will be diminished as well. That isn't just, and I believe Patrick O'Connor is here to answer any questions related to this proposal or clarified any statements that I made.
Pat, do you have anything to add to Ramiro's summation?
No, good morning, Commissioners. Patrick O'Connor, Director of Thurston County Public Defense. As Ramiro indicated, this is an amendment to an existing interlocal agreement Had several meetings over the course of this year with the city of Tumwater due to a decline in cases as a result of COVID and frankly some other issues over the past 2 years. There just aren't enough cases to support 2 defense attorneys at this time. So understandably, this interlocal agreement reflects their decision to reduce that number. But as Romero indicated, I anticipated this may be a scenario which the city was going to make, and we're pivoting, not losing that attorney and increasing our service to our community here in the department. By taking on additional juvenile criminal representations that we currently and historically have contracted out at expense. In addition to that, we will also be representing juveniles in what are called BeCA hearings, which are truancy and youth at risk hearings, which we've traditionally contracted out, as well as representing adults in child support enforcement proceedings at FJC that we have traditionally outsourced out at expense. So it's a reduction in our revenue from the city of Tumwater, but also a reduction in expense by keeping that work in the shop.
What a good strategy, Pat. Thank you.
Welcome.
Commissioner Menser, you're on, sir.
Nope, I'm good on this one.
Okay, Gary, anything?
No, sir.
All right, thank you, Pat, very much. Agenda item number 8A, contract with the City of Olympia for micro shelters.
This item you had the opportunity to review last week, Commissioners, is related to a request from the City of Olympia for $60,000 to access the emergency funding set aside of emergency funding is $125,000. It was part of the 2163 funding that is related to document recording fees, where all the jurisdictions in the region participates on that. And this particular request was made to the Regional Housing Council, and at the last meeting, unanimously, the Regional Housing Council supported this request to access the emergency funding for $60,000. The purpose of this proposal is to replace the tents that are currently located in downtown Olympia as part of their mitigation side for unsheltered individuals with what they call as a micro-housing. And micro-housing is not a tiny home, but it's much better than the current tents they have in place. And again, Tom is here to answer any questions related to this proposal. As I mentioned early this meeting, you may be receiving public testimony related to this item this afternoon.
Tom, do you have anything to add?
No, I think that was a good summary. Happy to answer additional questions if you have any.
Okay, Commissioner Evers?
No, sir.
Commissioner Menser?
Tom, was there a particular impetus for this change, or is it just trying to upgrade conditions at that site kind of in general? Or was there some problem or something being responded to that resulted in this proposal?
I don't know if there's a specific problem, but I think in discussions with the City of Olympia over the years, they've realized that the tents are just do not hold up well. They're frequently being replaced, especially as we enter the winter seasons, past winter seasons. The weather's been harsh on the tents, so they're looking for a better, more stable structure. So I don't think there's one specific incidence or kind of issue, but a kind of experience over the last couple winters trying to improve the quality of the shelter that is provided.
Thank you.
Which I would think would enhance the health and safety of the individuals living in a micro shelter. My question is, should this be approved this afternoon? How soon before they're in the micro shelter? We're talking about a year, 3 months, 2 months?
No, City of Olympia is looking to move very quickly. I don't have a specific time frame, but they are ready to move forward. They've received donations from Providence Hospital and other local businesses to support this effort. So I would expect that these would be, up and functional in a short period of time. I don't want to put a specific time date on it, but some point this winter.
Wonderful.
For the end of the year.
And Commissioner, this particular proposal will create just about 80 micro housing, or replace about 80 currently tents. So.
Yeah, it's a very good thing. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Oh, stick around. 8B, Emergency Shelter Grant, COVID contract with Department of Commerce.
Under the Commissioners, under the CARES Act, Thurston County has been allocated fundings from Emergency Solutions Grant COVID, which is the acronym as we need another one, is ESG-CV, which is a program through the Washington State Department of Commerce. You may recall back in July 2020, we have an initial application, an initial allocation of $627,992 of this particular funds. Additional funding has become available for $3,255,300 for a total of $3,882,592 that we have received from this particular funding source. There is specific objectives for this particular money, which is to prevent, prepare for, and respond to coronavirus among individuals and families who are homeless and receiving homeless assistance and support for additional homeless. And again, this proposal is to amend the current contract with the Washington State Department of Commerce to receive additional money. And again, Tom is here to answer any questions.
Anything to add, Tom?
No, that's a good summary.
Okay. Commissioner Menser?
No.
Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
And just to loop you back in terms of some of the decisions that you have made, this is one of the funding sources in which you tap into it to support the interfaith works for emergency shelter located in Martin Way.
And also, if I may add, also for the safe parking program with the City of Olympia that we're working on.
Right. Thank you.
Got it. Tom, thank you very much.
Thank you.
8C, State of Washington Department of Children, Youth, and Families Interlocal Agreement.
The Washington State Department of Children, Youth, and Families, previously known as the Washington State Department of Early Learning, we have an interlocal agreement with them. And this particular proposal is to have an amendment with this on this contract to receive additional money related to the community health nurses and the nurse family partnership. And this program is targeted to provide services in Thurston, Lewis, and Mesa County related to the NFP program. At this point, we're currently serving 35 families in Mason County, 52 families in Thurston County, and we expect to expand to 38 families in Lewis County for a total of 125 families the NFP program serves. Gretchen Thaler, yeah, she's right here. She is the supervisor of the NFP, and she's available to answer any questions you may have.
Good morning, Gretchen.
Good morning, commissioners. Thank you for having me.
What's that?
I said thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Do you have anything to add before we get any questions?
No, just that this is a continuation of a grant or contract that we've had for the last several years, and with the new expansion for the Centralia community in Lewis County that was implemented in January of this year.
Okay. Commissioner Edwards, anything?
No, I think this just helps us get that 30% to our 100% of our future. That's all. Thank you, Gretchen, for all you do.
Thank you.
All right, good. Same thing.
Yeah,
Thank you, Gretchen.
Commissioner, I apologize for the benefit of the viewing public. This is an amendment which is includes an additional $937,602 for a total contract of $1,749,653. I failed to mention that in my opening statements. And the amendment goes through July 31st, 2021.
Thank you, sir. It's a dollar well spent. Thank you, Gretchen. 8D, setting a public hearing for the consolidated annual performance and evaluation report.
Yeah, for your consideration, commissioners, every year you need to consider holding a public hearing related to the Housing and Urban Development Consolidated Annual Report and Annual Performance and Evaluation Report. This particular item is for you to set a public hearing on December 1st, 2020 at 3 in the afternoon, where you receiving public testimony on the 2019 Housing Urban Development Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report. And this is on the heels for you to submit that report to HUD. And again, Tom is here to answer any questions. I don't see Jacinda here, but yeah. Tom?
Okay. Go ahead, Tom, if you have anything to add.
No, just to say this, this report requires a 15-day public comment period. So that public comment period will be begin on about November 13th when we will publish this. It'll be available on our website. There will also be a notice published in the Olympian for review, and we will provide that to the commissioners for your review as well. So we're just finalizing the report now.
Good, thank you, sir. Ty?
Oh.
Gary?
No, sir. Good.
All right, we're done with that one then. Well, that takes us to agenda item number 9, which is cleaning up of the meeting. We'll report back to Commissioners Well on our week's activities, and the county manager will go through the calendar, and then we adjourn that meeting. Now let's review the agenda. We still have time. For next Tuesday, November 10th, 2020, we'll call the meeting to order at 2 o'clock with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Vice Chair Menser, approval of the agenda and the board meeting minutes from today, and then an opportunity for public comment, county manager's update, and the consent items at this point is just for the voucher list. And then we get into the department items, and agenda item number 4, community planning and economic development, setting a public hearing for the CIP.
Yeah, thank you, commissioners. This is a yearly item the board may need to consider. This is before you approve the capital facilities plan. You need to hold a public hearing. This particular proposal is for you to consider setting that for December 8th, 2020 at 6 in the afternoon. The 2021-2026 Capital Improvement Program, also known as the CIP, is a 6-year financial plan for capital projects needed to maintain important infrastructure and level of services and as the community grows. The CIP is updated annually, as I mentioned to you, and fulfills the capital facilities planning requirements of the Comprehensive Management Act. Funding sources, project costs, and project descriptions are included in the CIP. The Board of County Commissioners was briefed on the CIP on July 29, as well as October 22nd. And the Planning Commission held a public hearing on October 21st, 2020, and took an action to recommend approval as presented. And Jennifer Davis is here to answer any questions related to this item.
Good morning, Jennifer Davis. Do you have anything to add?
Good morning. I do not.
Okay. Gary, anything for Jennifer?
When the Planning Commission made the recommendation, was that unanimous recommendation in this?
Yes, it was, Commissioner.
Okay, thank you.
Ty? No, nor do I. Jennifer, thank you very much. Agenda item number 5 is emergency services, and this is a contract for Homeland Security grant.
Yeah, for your consideration, Commissioner, this is for you to accept a grant for the fiscal year 2020 related to emergency services. Thurston County has been awarded $308,499 on the federal fiscal year 2020 through the Homeland Security Grant Program. The purpose of this funding is to build and sustain and deliver capabilities necessary to prevent, prepare for, protect against, and respond to acts of terrorism. And in addition to the items that we're going to be using this money for will be $13,000 for maintenance and administration, about $200,000 for training and exercises. 19,000 for equipment of Thurston County Special Operations, 24,000 equipment and supplies for Thurston County Regional Command Unit, 6,000 earmarked to any enhanced election security in the future, and 43,000 security information for event monitoring. To give you a perspective, Thurston County Emergency Management is the coordinating agency on the Homeland Security Region 3. The Region 3 is formed by counties, cities, and tribes, which includes Grace Harbor, Lewis County, Pacific, and Thurston counties. And again, this is a yearly allocation to the county, and there is not a required of a local match. It's a pass-through from the federal government through the state to the county. And Sandy is here to answer any questions you may have related to this proposal. Kurt couldn't join us this morning.
All right, good morning, Sandy. Do you have anything to add?
Good morning. No, I do not have anything to add.
Okay. Commissioner Edwards.
No questions, sir. Thanks.
Commissioner Menser.
I'm sorry, I'm sure Miro covered it, and my attention may have wandered, but what is the money going to be spent on, or what is it?
I'm sorry, the question?
The grant, what is it for?
Yeah,
I mentioned it, but I missed it.
the grant is intended to spend within the region as stated, and it will include about $200,000 in training and exercise programs for the 5-county Homeland Security region. It will include just about $20,000 for equipment for the Thurston County Special Operations Rescue Team. It will include just about $25,000 equipment and supplies for the Thurston County Regional Command Unit. About $7,000 there is earmarked for enhanced election security, just in case. And just about $44,000 for security information and event monitoring, which include the software and enhanced cybersecurity across county offices and departments.
Is this equipment that you mentioned in the second and third categories? Is it equipment that we get to choose what we need, or is it specified what kind of equipment we have to acquire?
Sandy can probably answer that question related to the flexibility of the equipment that we can purchase. Do you have that answer, or we can come back next week, Sandy?
Have to introduce yourself, Sandy.
The equipment is we can choose what we need, but it has to be on the federal authorized equipment list. However, that list is very comprehensive, and we rarely find that we want to purchase equipment that's not on that list.
Okay, thank you. That's all I needed.
Okay. All right, thank you, Sandy. Agenda item number 6, Public Works Resolution adopting the 2020 Parks, Open Space and Trails Plan, or the POST plan.
Thank you, Commissioners. For your consideration is to approve the 2020 Parks, Open Space and Trails Plan. As you may recall, in June 10, 2020, and on July 15, 2020, the Board of County Commissioners was briefed on this particular proposal, also known as the POST plan. And in follow-up, the commissioners, they provided a direction to set up public hearing for you to hear public testimony related to this proposal. You held a public hearing last week on October 27, 2020, where no public testimony was received related to this plan. And also at that time, you directed the staff to submit an AIS for you to consider taking a formal action to adopt the plan. Lucy Mills is here to answer any questions related to this proposal.
Thank you for joining us, Lucy. Commissioners, any questions or comments? You're on the POST plan? No?
No, sir.
Got it. Lucy, thank you for joining us. That was 6A. 6B is an ordinance regarding Black Lake Special District issuance of a bond.
So, Commissioners, this is the last step in the process related to the Black Lake request. As a matter of background, under resolution, under ordinance 15930, the Board of County Commissioners approved the increase in rates and charges on the Black Lake Special Use District, which affects 175 lakefront properties. There has been a lot of conversation related to this proposal, and this is the last step, which is under RCW 8538.230, the Board of County Commissioners needs to authorize the Black Lake Special Use District to issue a bond for $1.4 million. And that was the financial strategy behind that. Have enough revenues by increasing the rates so they can bond this to provide water quality treatment on the lake. There's a 20-year bond, I believe. And just as a matter of clarification, by you considering authorizing the issuance of this bond to the Black Lake Special District, it does not bind the county in any financial matter in the future. So it's totally separate. You just authorize this, the issuance of the bond by the Black Lake Special Districts, but again, the county will not have any financial liability by this action. And Tim Wilson is here to answer any questions related to this proposal.
Good morning, Tim. Do you have anything to add?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I have nothing to add at this time.
All right, thank you. Ty?
No.
Gary?
No, sir.
All right, well, thank you very kindly. That takes care of 6B. And then 7 on the agenda is wrapping up the week, the previous week. And then we move into a public hearing at 3 o'clock on community plan, economic development, rural accessory dwelling units.
Yeah, Commissioners, you will be, this public hearing, you will be receiving public testimony related to a proposal on the rural accessory dwelling units. This is part of the Development Code docket, item 8-21, which has been in place since 2018. The Board of County Commissioners earlier in the year provided a priority number 3 out of 15 items. And you receive, a briefing on September 23rd, 2020. And also you decided to hold a public and set the public hearing later on. This is leading to where the Planning Commission held 4 work sessions in May 2020 through August 2020. A public hearing with the Planning Commission was held on August 5th, 2020. A SEPA determination of no significance was issued on September 8, 2020, and the Planning Commission suggested for you to consider these amendments. As you may recall, the public hearing including all the many different options, I believe, for the public to provide public testimony. And I don't see Andrew in here, but I think I can't read the name. That's
Go ahead, Brown.
Hello, Andrew Bond with Community Planning.
Andrew.
Do you have anything to add, Andrew?
I have nothing else to add. We do have a follow-up work session scheduled for December 2nd at 9 a.m. to iron out any of the remaining details before adoption if we go in that direction.
Okay. Ty, anything?
Nope.
Okay, Gary?
My only question would be that on our agenda setting for November 10th, it says 3:30, and here it says 4 o'clock for the meeting. And I'm just wondering, if we set it for 3:30, we can always have it later, but I guess if we set it for 4, we can't. If we get done with the one hearing early, then we can't move forward until 4 if we've got it set there. So just a question of process.
Are you talking about the public hearing that we're just discussing at the Board of Health meeting at 3:30?
Yeah, that's
Your public hearing next week is scheduled for 3 in the afternoon.
okay.
And you're right, the Board of Health, I think that's where you're keen
Yeah.
on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
at 3
Yeah,
o'clock instead of
on-
3:30, that's right.
On our agenda, it stays a Board of Health at 3:30, and the Board of Health agenda stays for 4 o'clock. Is that the,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
so
Yeah, he's right.
we revised that. I believe the Board of Health meeting starts at 4 o'clock.
At 4, okay. That makes
I think
clear
we'll
sense.
change that.
Okay, I mean, just,
Yeah.
doesn't matter to me. I just thought so convenience of flow and everything. Thank you.
Well, that might be, there might be a busy public hearing as well to give us sufficient time. So thank you for pointing that out. All right, thank you, Andrew. Thank you. And then we're going to move into the Board of Health meeting, and I'm going to turn it over to the Board of Health Chair, and that's Commissioner Ty Messer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We've got Shelley Slaughter, Director of Public Health and Social Services. I see several other public health. We've got Lydia Hodgkinson, Clerk of the Board of Health, and then a few staff members that will relate to certain items, Katie Strozik, Chris Hawkins in particular. The meeting will call to order, looks like at 4 o'clock. Approval of agenda, and then we will have meeting minutes and work session notes from September 16th, October 13th, work session notes from September 1st, September 16th, and October 13th. So I assume that will be dealt with at the meeting. Any questions about that? Not hearing any.
No.
Opportunity for the public to address the Board of Health. And department items, number 1 will be amendment number 3 to the Lewis County contract for the purchase of Nurse Family Partnership Health Services. I'll let Shelley let us know what that's all about.
Good morning, Commissioners. Again, Shelley Slaughter, Administrator of your Board of Health. And for this item, we are asking the board to approve the amendment of a ongoing contract that we have with Lewis County. Lewis County contracts with Thurston County to provide nurse family partnership services to over 50 Lewis County families. And the reason why this comes before the Board of Health is because RCW 70.05.150 requires the Board of Health to approve any sale or purchase of health services with any other local health department. And Gretchen Toller, the manager of the Nurse Family Partnership Program, is joining me here if you have any questions about this item.
Do you have anything you need to add up front, Gretchen?
No, just that this is, like Shelley said, ongoing contract for work that we do in Lewis County, where the other contract that we discussed in the BoCC is specific for Centralia. This contract covers all of Lewis County.
Commissioners, questions? Commissioner Edwards.
No, sir.
Commissioner Hudson.
This is it's a good thing for Lewis County for sure, for that community. Thank you.
Yeah, we love this partnership with Lewis County.
Okay, thank you. I don't have anything, so appreciate that, Gretchen. Item number 4 is opioid response update featuring Katie Strozik, our Social Services Program Specialist 2 and opioid coordinator. Shelley, why don't you introduce this topic?
Thank you, Commissioner. This was one of Commissioner Menzer's suggestions for the agenda, is for Katie Strozik, our opioid response coordinator, to provide an update on our opioid response plan that the Board of Health approved back in 2019. If you recall, in June of 2018, the Board of Health declared the opioid epidemic a public health crisis and issued resolution H12018. And so Katie will provide a presentation on where we are at with the opioid task force, as well as progress made on the plan. Anything else you'd like to add, Katie?
Nothing significant to add, just that myself and Marianne O'Garrow are working currently on finalizing the presentation so that it includes all of the information from yesterday's opioid task force meeting. That way it's the most current update possible.
Questions for Katie, Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir, I'm good.
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay, great. Well, I was at the meeting yesterday, and the group has adapted to the COVID environment and kept their work moving forward. So we'll get a good overview of that. Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Shelley. Department item 5 is climate change and health. Chris Hawkins is here, and I think he'll be featured, but I'll turn it to Shelley to introduce the item.
Yes, sir. This will be a presentation on the health impacts associated with climate change. And Chris Hawkins will provide a presentation and update from the Climate and Clean Energy Action Team and update on the Thurston County 2020 Climate Mitigation Plan. And Chris is here to provide more information or answer any questions that you have.
Chris, anything to add front?
No, Shelley covered it well there. This was an effort to bring back some information that we've provided in the past about the health impacts of climate change in particular, and ways that our community is responding to that, dealing with both the impacts that we're feeling already and trying to get ahead of the climate change issue and address the effort to mitigate climate change, do our part in that, which is the focus of the Climate and Clean Energy Work Group of Thurston Thrive, so that we can prevent some of those bigger impacts down the line from climate change that do bear on the health of our community.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
Commissioner Hawkins?
No, sir.
Nope. Okay. Well, thanks, guys. The climate mitigation plan will be coming to the board at some point, and this will be a good refresher of some of the health dynamics that play into that. And some of them are not as obvious as some of the ones that we hear about more in the media. So we'll look forward to that. Thank you, Chris.
Very welcome. Thank you, Commissioner.
The rest of the agenda is our standing items, I should say. Board of Health members can report on health-related activities. The health officer, Dr. Abdulmalik, can give a report. And then Shelley will wrap things up in a sense with her director's report. Shelley, anything we need to be previewed for on that, or are we good to go? Okay, that's it for the Board of Health. Next week, starting at 4 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. We're going to move on to a couple more things, and then we'll take our break. Proclamations and awards. Amy Davis or Romero.
Yeah, no, we just turning the microphone on. Give us a second.
Okay.
Good morning, Commissioners. Amy Davis, Clerk of the Board. There are no proclamations for review this morning.
Good, thank you. Advisory boards and commissions.
There are also no applications for review.
And Megan Porter, our PIO. Check in, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. Megan Porter, Public Information Supervisor. I'm working with Megan Johnson, the COVID PIO, and the COVID policy team to update the communications steps or the communications matrix for offices and departments to take if they have staff who test positive for COVID. The communications matrix was originally sent out in July, but it's been a while and kind of needs to be looked at, reviewed a little bit. And then once it's finalized, we will send back out to all offices and departments and staff as guidance on how to react if there is a COVID positive staff member. I'm also working with community planning and economic development communications staff to develop a communications plan to help guide them, guide the focus of their communications over the next year. They're going to be focusing a little more on websites and how to help the public interact without having to come into the office. So that's going to be a lot of the focus of their communications. And then this morning, Brian sent me an update on the numbers we're seeing through our virtual outreach tools like YouTube and Constant Contact, Twitter, et cetera. And we're seeing a significant growth and reach, which is a really, really good thing. We like seeing that. It's a good reminder that the tools that we're using are working and that our residents are able to see what's going on in county government. We'll be putting a report to you to present to you in early December that will show this along with some other matrix that we keep in the Public Information Office. And then lastly, we're getting really close to an agreement in the Comcast franchise negotiations. There's been a lot of email traffic this morning about it, so I'm hopeful that we'll get this in front of you before the end of the year. Pending any questions, that's all I have.
Gary, anything for Megan?
No, sir.
Kai?
Nope.
Yeah, Megan, I would, I like the idea or the increase that I'm hearing in the numbers of subscribers, viewers and such. But I'd be very interested to see how that, if it sustains itself after the next several weeks, when all the election dust has settled, to see if the numbers are still up and people are still monitoring and staying involved.
Yeah, it's very interesting because it does show a large jump in between April and July, because it's only every few months that we pull the data, and there's a really large jump from when we were in the stay home, stay healthy, and prior to that to when we started doing everything online, like all of our board meetings. It shows a significant increase. And then our weekly newsletter has really increased the constant contact numbers as well. And so it's very interesting. Brian's putting together a nice visual for it so you can see how it's moving throughout the year.
Very cool. Very cool. Thank you for that.
Sounds pandemic related more than election related.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. Interesting perspective. All right, thank you, Megan. And now we're moving into legislative update, Romero.
Yes, sir. I presented to you a draft of the 2020-2021 Thurston County legislative priorities. And as a result of that, we received some comments from Commissioner Mincer, particularly on number 1, provide new revenue as well as fiscal regulatory flexibility. So we divided this request in 2, one related to the COVID-19 and the emergency that we need to do short term, but also the second part relates to the long term need to provide fiscal flexibility to counties. This is what I have for you in terms of the final draft. And if you'd like to review, let me know, but I'd like to probably finalize as soon as feasible so I can start working with each one of you as well as with Deborah Manguia to start setting up some virtual meetings with some of the members of the legislative delegation in Thurston County.
Yeah, I'm looking this over for just a moment.
And you don't need to read it right now. If I just presented this formally as a final draft, if you have any questions, I would appreciate you give me some comments in the next couple of days. And as a result, I will finalize that.
Gary, anything regarding the ledge update?
No, sir.
Okay, Ty?
No.
That's good. Thank you. Thank you for that. And public hearing decisions pending.
Would you consider a break at this time, Commissioner?
If you'd like to, if this will be substantial, you have to take a break. It is 10:15. Let's go back at 10:30. 10:30, 15-minute break. Thank you. 2, 1. And welcome back to the November 3rd, 2020 work session with the Board of County Commissioners. We're picking up where we left off, and right before the break, we're getting into transfer of development rights briefing.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioners. On October 28, 2020, last week, you had a briefing related to the transfer of development rights. Thurston County operates a transfer of development rights, also known as the TDR, program that enables certain agricultural landowners to certify development rights from their property and transfer them to urban growth areas that are specifically designated for this purpose. The goal of this program is to preserve farmland while allowing owners to get an economic value of their land's development potential. You heard that the county received an application for you to consider transferring the development rights, and that was an application submitted by Ms. Susan Yackley, which they own a 50-acre property on James Road Southwest, south of Rochester. The property contains a residence, agricultural structures, pasture, and forest land. And I believe they have met the criteria related to this particular proposal. And at this point, you decided after the briefing, you'd like to think about this a little bit more. And Andrew DeFavis is here to answer any questions, or if you need additional information before, I will ask for you to provide guidance. The next step, if you approve this, will be for staff to submit an AIS, where you will be entertaining a formal action establishing a conservation easement on this property. You're muted, Commissioner.
I didn't hit it hard enough. Andy, anything to supplement Ramiro's summation?
Yes, I do have a few things. This is Andy DeFobis with Community Planning. So I do have some information to answer some questions that the board had at the briefing on October 28th. So we went back and looked at the transactions that have occurred in the program, because there was a question about how much a development right might go for if someone were to sell it. Based on the data we have, which ranges from the years 2006 to 2013, over that time, the average amount of money that was paid for a development right was $15,300. I don't have any newer data. That's the last transaction I could find was in 2013. So on average over those years, $15,300. Again, it is market-based, so the price that is paid is set by the seller and paid by the buyer, and the county does not get involved in that. I was also able to track down that 4 development rights have been applied in the urban receiving areas to add density to residential development projects in those areas. And again, there are the remainder of the rights that have been certified through the program, which is roughly 30 or so, are still out there and could be applied in the future. So as Ramiro stated, essentially we're waiting to move forward with this current application for certifying development rights down in Rochester. It meets the program criteria, and once the board is ready, staff can bring it forward with an AIS, and that's all I have for you.
Okay. Gary, any questions of Andy?
Is this ever revocable? I know once in a while people put their property in timber tax or open space or ag or whatever, and then somewhere down the road they make a change of heart or change in family ownership or something, and then they take it out and they pay a 7-year back penalty, I think in some cases, of whatever the current tax would be. So is there anything in law that allows anything like this to happen? And this is
a bit different than what you're talking about with the current use in the open space. People can sign a tax agreement with the county and agree to manage their property in a certain way in exchange for a tax benefit. And as you recognize, if they come out of that program, they owe some of those back taxes back. This is different because with the transfer development rights program, there is a permanent conservation easement placed on the property that runs with the land. So in the future, if this land is sold to another party, they're buying that land with those restrictions already on it. The development rights will have been removed, and those rights are no longer available.
perpetuity.
In perpetuity, that's correct. And I'm not a land use attorney, so whether an easement can be challenged in the future, I'm not aware, but the specifics on that. But really, the goal here is that this is a permanent severing of rights from the property, and this landowner can then sell them to someone to use in the urban area.
Has this been discussed at all with the Ag Committee that we have? I know they're very concerned about retaining properties mainly for ag activities. So have they got involved in this at all, in this discussion?
Hi, Commissioner. Jennifer Davis with the Community Planning. The Ag Committee is right now engaged in a project to review all of our incentive programs that we have in place to support agriculture in our community. And our Transfer of Development Rights program is one of the ones they're digging into to see if it's an important program to the ag community. And I think the interest lies in making sure it's working to the best of its ability and looking at how some other jurisdictions do it and see if there are any things that we can do to improve how our program works. But they're highly supportive of this type of program in our community.
Thank you.
Ty, anything? Yeah, go ahead.
That got me thinking. So if a property owner sells the development right, let's say in this particular instance, I got 50 acres. It looks like there's 9 development rights. I sell the 9. Then I sell my 50 acres to a new owner who might want to do something different. Can they buy 9 development rights and put them back on the property and kind of restore? Is it one-way street?
It's a one-way street. So once the rights are severed from the property, they can only be applied in a receiving area, which as the program is currently structured, is in the urban areas of the county. A landowner is able to, so this landowner, for example, she's got 9 rights that are available on that property. She is retaining 1 on the property to use in the future and severing 8. So if someone wants to do something like that and they want to apply any development rights to that property in the future, they have to retain them upfront, and there are specific documents that must be recorded stating as such. Otherwise, if the rights are severed, they are no longer able to be applied in a TDR sending area.
Okay, I'm good.
And I'm done. So we come back with an AIS.
Yeah, I would like to have direction from the board. Would you like to direct staff to bring an AIS for a formal action?
Yeah.
I guess we're just one question on that. Do we need a public hearing on this?
No.
Okay.
Got it. So Andy, whenever you're ready, Jennifer, submit an AIS and we'll go through the process.
Was that a thumbs up from you, Gary?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thanks, Jennifer. Thank you, Andy. We're now getting into the commissioner's items, and the first one is Thurston Climate Action Team request.
Yeah, thank you, commissioners. As a matter of background, you may recall back on the fourth quarter budget amendment, you set aside $37,500 for the Thurston Climate Action Team, and they provided to you some information related to what they tried to accomplish with that allocation, which is establish vision and design for the Thurston County Energy Efficiency Program, build capacity infrastructure for services, build partnerships, and seek additional funding.
Romero, is that the 37.5 that we put aside with caveats?
Yes, I'm getting to that point.
Thank you, sir. I just want to be sure I'm tracking.
Yeah. So when you allocated $37,500, you put a condition before you releasing the money, where you stated that all the other jurisdictions, the cities, particular in the area, should participate on the same effort up to $75,000. Members of the Thurston Climate Action Team has done due diligence, and I know that for a fact, to reach out to each of the jurisdictions to secure additional funding for their proposal. Unfortunately, they have not been successful in getting support from the other jurisdictions. And the result of that is you have a letter before you where this group is asking the commissioners to lift that condition on the $37,500 and allocate them directly with no conditions. They have provided to you a little more information as to how they're planning to spend the money, and that will be between November 20 and March 21st. And the activities included on this proposal, they're planning to secure the services of a consultant through a request or proposals. They will include services that perhaps are not being provided by all, included PSE. They're targeting this particular proposal and expediting some of the strategies that Puget Sound Energy is having. And also on this proposal, they're targeting also low-income individuals, mainly as to how they can probably access or develop a program to have a more energy efficient type of loans. Also, the deliverables of this proposal includes an actual report that identifies the gaps, strategies, and expected deliverables. And I'm not going to be reading the whole letter, but that is the gist of this proposal. The gist again is for you to consider lifting the condition of the $37,500 and allocate that money to the Thurston Climate Action Team as soon as feasible to implement the program that is stated in the letter that I have in your packet. I believe Mr. Tom Crawford is joining us on the conference call. If you have any questions related to this request.
Okay, let me start with the commissioners. Ty, any comments or questions?
Not at this very moment. I might have one later.
Okay, Gary?
The dollar amount is the same, though, right?
Yeah, it's the same, and you already set aside in the budget.
Okay.
Just requesting to lift the condition.
Thank you.
So I'm reading this just really quickly, and it seems like the 37,500 is going to just go towards working. It says here in the other in the second paragraph on page 2, identifying a whole list of people that should be involved or collaboration. Well, I agree, but that doesn't mean they will. Maybe I should ask Tom that. Tom, will you identify yourself?
Hey, Tom, are you available? Please unmute yourself.
I don't know how to unmute. I'm on my phone here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. We can hear you. We're good.
Okay. All right.
So introduce yourself, Tom.
I think the question is, how do we know those people that we listed will be involved? Is that correct?
No, number one, I want you to identify yourself and whom you're with, and then tell us exactly. I'd like to know what that $37,500 is going to purchase. What's it going to be spent on?
Okay, so my name is Tom Crawford. I'm with Thurston Climate Action Team. I see there's an Andy here who's also talking, or I'm not looking at my screen here. I'm a little confused.
No, go ahead. You're the only one who's speaking right now.
Okay. All right. Yes, my name is Tom Crawford. I'm with Thurston Climate Action Team, and I believe Chris Van Dalen, also a member of our board and also with the North Muskegon Building Guild, is also on the line. Yes, I'm here. So I'll invite Chris to jump in as needed as well. Yes, the 37,500. I think we described in every paragraph in our memo what that would be used for. It would be used to hire a consultant that we go out and issue an RFP to obtain their local consultants as well as folks in the region, in the Puget Sound region, who are highly qualified to do this kind of work. So I think we've described what work would produce a report with a number of specific items within the report. And it would also include working with those various groups. And part of the reason that we know that those groups are involved is we've already contacted many of them and they've expressed interest, including, I hope you have, I think we have 3 letters of support from various significant housing agencies within our community, within Thurston County. And so I hope you have, those were made available to you as well. And so those are some of the reasons why we're confident that we will have good participation in this.
Tom, I just jump in to say that, yes, there would be a report, but the main objective, the deliverable on this subcontract would be to design a program that we would be ready to launch and get going once more funding was available, whether it's through the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan or through the future stimulus dollars from the federal level. We would have a good, solid program design, and we will, that was based on conversations with all of these housing agencies to really identify what those gaps in services are and how this program could be effective for the purposes, the state purposes of the program. So really get us to be a point where we're shovel ready to take the further steps. But the initial stage really, it needs to be designing the program in consultation with those other agencies. That's what it would be about.
And who is that jumping in?
Oh, I'm sorry. This is Chris Van Dalen with the Northwest Eco Building Guild.
All right, thank you. I'll go back to my seatmates. Gary, anything?
No, I think they've laid it out pretty well.
Okay. Ty?
Just a comment, I guess. I'm torn on this. I definitely want to see the money that we allocated remain allocated for energy efficiency, clean energy, because I know we're going to need it as we move forward with our climate goals. But my excitement about this originally was to get a coordinated regional effort started. And I agree that we could definitely make headway by having a consultant design a program, but I'm afraid without the buy-in from the other jurisdictions, I still want to see the end result be that coordinated regional program. What I was hearing I reached out to the various cities ad hoc, just talking to council members and hearing what their concerns were. Really wasn't about the concept. It was just about the fact that they were dealing with their own financial situations and they weren't sure what the climate mitigation plan was going to require, and they just didn't want to make that commitment up front. So I think we will get support, but I certainly don't want to throw down, hire a consultant, develop a scope of work, and then have the city say, well, that's not what we had in mind. We don't like that consultant. We don't like that scope of work. We're not going to participate. So that's my concern, my hesitation. If we could get the cities to come and work with us on what they think this program ought to look like, and then, if we were the first ones to commit money toward it, I don't have a heartburn about that. But I am concerned about acting unilaterally and then finding out that we don't have the support that we need across the jurisdictions, even for the conceptual design. Because eventually I think we need to work on this. We need to be working in concert on this, because it's going to take policy changes at each jurisdictional level. So those are just my comments. I'm not against this, but I'd certainly maybe like to think about it or reach out to the cities and see if we could get some collaboration on a scope of work or something that everybody would feel like is moving in the right direction for 2021.
Thank you. It was this letter that caused me to kind of rub my chin and say, because it's Thurston Climate Action Team, and going back to what Commissioner Menzer said was exactly what my concern was, is that we would be part of a consortium, part of a community-wide effort to have some forward progress. But with them not jumping in to assist or joining in for whatever reason, causes me to think that $37,500, it will buy a consultant who will tell us what we kind of know, but maybe more strategically what we need to know. Again, without any further buy-in from the cities, not only because of their own financial issues or where they're going on their own agenda in their own city. So I'm really not dubious from the standpoint that it's not worthwhile, and TCAT doesn't have credit. It does have credibility. I'm not dubious about that. It's just I'm dubious about what that consultant, funding a consultant is really going to get us. So that's that. I'm almost in the same. Well, I'm in the same place where Commissioner Menzer is. I just want to think about this and wait a little bit longer. I'm not excited about this at this point. I was back in the summertime. Gary?
Yes. Well, gee, all three of us thinking alike. That's kind of scary.
What?
I do think, though, there could be the possibility that we might be able to communicate with the other jurisdictions that we thought originally were going to participate in this and show them what is being proposed here and at least get buy-in from them before we make the decision. And I think then we'd have a good understanding if they wanted a little different direction or add this or take this out. I think we'd have a better chance of success down the road, even though financially they might not be quite ready yet. So I don't know how to put that together exactly, if it'd go under a letter from the climate action team and let them take it around to the different groups, or if we would actually submit a letter from the Board of County Commissioners to those jurisdictions that were originally intended and make sure that we get buy-in from them before we move forward with this. So that's just kind of food for thought.
But my concern would be, I'm not concerned. The question I have, and I don't know if this is where Ty's going to go, is with the end of the year coming, we set aside this $37,500 as a placeholder. And so I don't think anything's going to happen before the end of the year now. What happens with that money, or what do we do with that in that regard process-wise, Romero?
Well, that will be a decision point when you are having the deliberations of the 2020-2021 budget, if you like to carry over that amount into next year. And it has to be a different allocation because the carryover doesn't really work on the general fund. So you need to take an action to add that 2021.
Okay, go ahead, Ty.
I was just going to say that I like Commissioner Edwards' suggestion, and I actually like the idea of the board sending a letter, because I've had a lot of ad hoc discussions, but I'd kind of like to get when we send a letter, it kind of prompts a formal response from the councils. I think the board should send a letter saying, we allocated this money. The program didn't come together. That's fine. We understand everybody's dealing with difficulties. We attached we have this new updated proposal from the climate action team. We're willing to move forward if we can get some input and collaboration on on future participation on this. I don't know, just to see what response we get. I like the idea of this going in that direction. I don't want this to just wither. I want to move forward and but I do think the board needs some, these multi-jurisdiction things are cumbersome to put together, but they're usually worthwhile once they get done. So I like the idea of us sending a letter that kind of prompts a formal consideration by the various cities, and maybe a response, and we can get a partnership going that would get this thing moving.
Well, you said it's not insurmountable to put a coalition of governments together. I like that approach too, Gary. If we can put something together.
Could I provide some clarification and maybe some suggestions?
Yes.
You heard on the Board of Health, you're going to have a briefing on the climate action plan that is coming up, and I believe Commissioner Menzer serves on the subcommittee. I'm just wondering about the timing of you sending that letter related to just this proposal to the other jurisdictions. I mean, I can certainly draft a letter for you to advocate for this particular proposal, in which you will ask the jurisdictions to come up to $75,000, meaning the intent of the restrictions they have put on the 37,500. But I'm just curious in terms of the timing. And I believe that was some of the feedback, at least when I have been present in some of the meetings, that some of the other jurisdictions had related to this proposal, is the timing. Since the climate action plan is nearly to be finalized, and that will put a different perspective, different type of actions that each jurisdiction may maybe have to take into consideration. So I'm just not necessarily arguing, but I just put a perspective in terms of the timing for you.
Where did this 37,000?
Tom, stop. The commissioners have the floor, please.
Okay, thank you.
Remember, where did this 37,500 come from? Is it just not general fund? Where did it come from?
General fund.
It was general fund money? Okay.
Can I make a comment, Chair?
Please, yeah.
I guess we've got 2 months left, and kind of recognizing what Commissioner Menser said about dying on the vine. And that's kind of what happens when you delay too long, I guess. And actually, all we're really going to be asking those jurisdictions about if they agree with the concept of moving forward with this. I don't think we're going to ask that they rethink the dollar amount right now, are we? I guess that would be to the county manager, maybe.
Well, that's what I'm asking for clarification. If in fact it's a letter that you're considering, my questions will be the timing, the relationship with the climate action plan that is coming up. It will be the request on your letter advocating what is in this letter from the TCAT or something else. Because if the advocacy from this program is for you to lobby for more of a regional approach, a regional partnership, not just now, but in the future to address climate change, there's going to be many opportunities to do so through the climate action plan. Or the letter that you're considering today is to advocate again this the TCAT proposal for them to reconsider funding additional beyond the 37,500. So I'm trying to understand a little bit more the direction.
And I wouldn't send a letter that just asks if they would support the concept. There's no buy-in, especially if you fund a consultant or if TCAT funds a consultant. They come back with the findings. The cities, I'm sure, would say, "Oh, that's great. Okay, thank you." So you have to have something attached to say, hey, we expect some type of a contribution from the cities because it impacts everybody directly. Go ahead, Ty.
Well, I mean, I'm just thinking out loud, but I guess I was thinking about it. My response to Ramiro, and I guess it's different from Commissioner Hutchings, was to say that a letter to the effect of, we earmarked this money. We are considering moving forward on the TCAT's a revised proposal, but we're not willing to do that without some input from the other jurisdictions that we get sort of, we envision this as a first step toward a coordinated energy efficiency program. And we want, I would like the buy-in that I want is some input on what they would like to see this consultant do. I mean, basically we're paying for it, but we want to make sure that this is designed in a way that then can be the participation can be regional. And if they want to just shine that on because they're too busy with their own budgets, then I guess we have our answer. If I were the mayor of Olympia or Tumwater, I'd be pretty excited to say, yeah, if the county, we do need to do this. And we don't have the money. My council's not ready to act, but we would very much like to give you input on how this ought to look and be a participant in 2021. And then I would feel comfortable maybe moving forward along the lines that TCAP proposes, but that's a direction that I was headed with my proposal.
Hutch?
Go ahead.
God, it's kind of scary, but I'm right in line there with Commissioner Menzer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a bad strategy. But what about the timing that Romero was addressing?
Well, if that's if jurisdictional input is a condition for us to do this, then they have their opportunity. And if they don't want to give us any input or any response, then it sounds like we're not necessarily willing to do this until next year. I'm going to continue to advocate that money that we earmarked be still available for this type of activity, but I don't know that I want to spend unilaterally this amount of money on a consultant's report that may or may not have any multi-jurisdictional support, because it's not the program that I'd like to see us move toward developing.
Okay. Robin, did you have anything? Okay. Romero, do you want to go back to the phones?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
You want to go back to the callers?
Yes, let me see if I understand the direction and see if I miss anything. You would like for me to draft a letter on, for your signature, they will include the proposal that you have received from the TCAT, and also outlining the county is considering moving forward with their proposal and securing the services of a consultant to develop a report. And we will ask all the jurisdictions to provide input as to what they would like to see in terms of the deliverables of that report. Is that in just the letter that you envision?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you hear that, Tom?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, if I could just say thank you for the consideration, and also, I think as far as the timing of all this is as much a response to COVID as it is part of the climate plan. But I think, given what you suggested, if I could make a few minor changes to the revised proposal, it would clarify the intent that would align with the comments that you just made as you prepare to send your letter to the jurisdiction.
Yeah, if you can send me a revised letter, that would be good. Thank you.
Very good. All right, thank you, gentlemen, one and all. I'll wait till Romero catches up.
Thank you, sir.
We're getting into animal services request.
Yes, you.
Has left the conference.
Hold up. They're just leaving the conference.
Has left the conference.
Okay, we're clear.
Okay.
Back in October 20th of this year, you received a letter from JASCOM, that is the Joint Animal Services Commission. And the commission is members from the City of Olympia, City of Tumwater Council, the South Sound Veterinarians, and as well as Commissioner Menzer serves in terms of representing the county, as well as we have representatives from the City of Lacey, as well as the Thurston County Humane Society president is also part of this member of this JASCOM. They have submitted to you a recommendation for you to consider adopting a resolution to restrict the retail sale of dogs, cats, and rabbits in pet stores, banning the commercial sales of pets keep sick and inhumanely raised animals for being brought into Thurston County. Although this proposal, as they stated, it will not restrict people from purchasing a pet from a private breeder. Also, this proposal states that by you considering banning the sales of, it will not prevent those retail stores to access animals that are currently on the animal shelter for them to sell those, the pets. They provided some information related to Olympia has passed a resolution similar to this, as well as Bainbridge Island, Bremerton, Deer Harbor, Kitsap County, and Paulsville, as well as 350 other cities, counties, and states across the nation. Also, in your packet, you have a letter dated October 28, 2020, from Ms. Ashley Dale, which is the state representative of the group named Bailing Out Benji, and which she goes through and outlines the need for you to consider this particular ordinance.
Okay. Now, since Commissioner Mentor is on JASCOM, I'll start with you if you have any comments.
I really don't, beyond what's in the letter. We worked on this letter, and I didn't know a lot about this issue, and so at the beginning my ears were open, but I didn't really have any feeling one way or the other. But we got quite a bit of information that you kind of have to look to the next level of how the industry works and stuff to really understand why this made some sense. And I think it's kind of laid out here in the letter as best we could. I don't really have anything to add beyond that.
Gary?
Yes, I'm, without knowing more about this, are there operations, I guess they call them puppy mills. I don't know if that's the, I think of that as a pretty sleazy operation, I guess. But do we have any that are, I don't know if you want to call them regulated, but their activities are endorsed by all of these groups with concern, so that we knew that they were actually doing everything correct as far as a humanely run operation, and thus they were providing a certain breed. And I hate to take a motion right off the bat that takes a business, puts a business out of business without knowing what the impact is, and if there isn't some way of certification, I guess, if you will. And what are we talking about here in Thurston County? I mean, do we have a lot of these operations around? I mean, you always see the horrendous situation on the local news once in a while, or, you know, around the state or something, that some really bad situation has been uncovered. So do we have any of that information about how many of these we have? What kind of cases have we had in the past that justify this type of thing? And I'm not saying it's not justified. I just don't know very much about it. So was that all discussed? Maybe I'd ask Ty that question as a signatory on the letter.
So, and I apologize, I had almost exact same questions that you're asking. And we discussed this. This has taken a long time to get to the board. And I apologize that my knowledge, my mastery of the details behind this is a little faded, because we discussed this last spring. And I'm not sure why it's been 6 months or so to get to before us. So there aren't many. I mean, I think this was motivated by an operation that opened in West Olympia. And there is, so if I remember, the only, you can't, if a pet store like this opens, you can't really tell, there's no way to know where the dogs are coming from. And the USDA licenses that are acquired don't really meet the, they're not really strong enough for most folks, you know, veterinary community and satisfaction, I guess I should say. In this fourth paragraph here in the middle, it talks about USDA regulates most commercial breeders, but minimum federal standards do not ensure a humane life for dogs. They can have more than 1,000 dogs in a facility. They're confined to very small cages. They breed continuously. Even if they're cited for violations, they're allowed to keep selling. And so you don't know, and there's no way to track where your local stores are getting the animals from. And there's alternatives to this. Local breeders can sell directly to the public. You can do adoption programs. There's ways around it. And again, the answer to your question is yes, we did kind of go through all these details back last spring. I'm probably not able to explain it, but I was substantially satisfied with what I heard, that this would be a reasonable step to take, given the way the industry works and how lax the federal standards are. That's about all I can tell you beyond what's in the letter.
By any chance, do we know how many pet stores that we have in Thurston County, and what the financial impact would be to those individual pet stores? Or is that where we would have a public hearing possibly on an ordinance like this, and then that group of individuals would come in and explain how it might affect their business, type of a thing? I mean, I know service dogs and I don't know, all kinds of different dogs. The military buys a lot of service dogs. That would this inhibit that type of activity? I just don't know. I mean, it's coming in front of us now, and I'm interested in following the lead of Commissioner Menser on this deal, to be honest with you. It's just, there are a few other questions I'd like to know on how fast we want to move forward on this.
Back in 17 and 18, when I was on the JASCOM board, this came up a couple times. And as their letter is signed off here, they're in support of that. And then following Olympia's ordinance and the process they went through for the business in the city of Olympia on the west side, and then talking with certainly not a plethora, but a few, more than two veterinarians over the years, they're very much in support of this humane type of ordinance. And reading the bailing out Benji letter, they're in support of enacting a humane ordinance restricting the retail sale. Not only the puppy mill it can be a detrimental issue to the animals, but also the buyer. Some of them are just flat out scams. So I'm in support of the ordinance. It just depends on how it reads. For the same reason, I don't want to put someone legitimately out of business, but somebody in the county that doesn't have a store can be selling dogs and cats and rabbits as a breeder. And I just want to be sure it addresses those things so that animals are treated humanely, and the buying public is assured they're getting something of quality and not an ill or an injured animal. Go ahead, Ty. You were going to say something.
Well, I think I was just going to say that I don't think we need to rush this through. If there's questions, I think we should get them answered. And I don't know if that should take the form of, I can try to get some of the answers to the questions I heard for the board, or I could maybe get, the chair of JASCOM is a Olympia City Council member who's also a veterinarian, Lisa Partially. I'm sure she'd be willing to come and address the board on a Tuesday morning or otherwise to answer questions about it. She knows a lot more. We're lucky to have her expertise on that board, and however the board would like. I definitely want to get all the questions answered, because I know I had the same initial reactions that Commissioner Edwards did, not knowing the economic landscape of this in Thurston County. But I really don't think there are these types of stores. Really, it's more of there was this store on the west side, and then it's kind of a preventative approach. And there's some really bad situations that go on with these puppy mills that the Benji letter lays out in even more graphic detail.
As well as the COVID to the animal, the outbreak and spreading of bacteria in 21 states. And that's important. Anyway, I think Lisa Partially would be a good resource to have answer some questions.
Commissioner, maybe, are you done discussing this item? This is just
Yep.
next steps. I can reach out to the Executive Director of Animal Services to coordinate a briefing related to this request. And also, I always put in perspective, every time the commissioners consider banning any type of activities, enforcement needs to be part of that, and how you're going to perhaps maybe implement that enforcement aspect if any type of ban or restriction is put in place. So, and that should be part of your consideration as you move forward. So I will reach out to the Executive Director of Animal Services and organize a briefing with additional information.
All right, thank you.
Ramiro, sorry, Ramiro, didn't they, it's not here in my packet, but didn't they at one point propose a sample ordinance to us, or have you not seen that?
No, I have not seen a proposed ordinance. So this was new to me. So I fortunately have not seen the details of the ordinance itself. If you have a
We
copy,
can pull it probably.
Yeah, I can certainly have that. Thank you.
All right.
Next is the mayor of Rainier, Bob Shaw's request for a capital project.
Yeah, let me make some notes. Give me just a few seconds. Commissioners, back in September 28th, you received an email from Mayor Bob Shaw from the city of Rainier, where he urges the board to consider a capital investment on a park facility within the boundaries of the city of Rainier, particularly on the county's right-of-way along the trail that crosses Rainier. I follow up with Mayor Shaw with an email as well as a phone call, and I asked him to be a little more specific as to what that request was. And that's the result of the email that we received on October 26, 2020, where he then requested a specific to include building one tennis court and one pickleball court. And the request is for $300,000 from the county towards this project. He makes a point in this case related to the city of Olympia and perhaps the city of Lacey have built similar facilities on their parks, and they feel confident that perhaps the $300,000 will fund the two courts. Also in the letter, the city of Rainier will be responsible for the operations and maintenance after this capital improvement is built. And again, their request is to build within the Chehalis Western Trail right-of-way who crosses the city of Rainier. I just want to bring this to your attention. I'm not expecting you to make a decision today, but certainly this could be part of your discussion as you start having budget deliberations starting this week. I believe some of the underlying requests on this, and I'm just concluding on this, is perhaps for you to consider from the traffic, for the parks impact fees, the capital funding the county has. So that may be an option for you as you consider during the deliberations on the 2021 budget, which starts on Thursday of this week.
Go ahead, Tony.
On park impact fees, maybe I'm confusing them with traffic, but is there a requirement that certain fees be spent in a certain region of the county based on where they're collected? That's traffic. Is that also true for parks? Do we have that limitation?
It's similar, and it's similar for park impact fees as well. It has to be based on the region, but I think it's more flexibility than the traffic impact fees. And this is just my observation. And again, if you like,
Yeah.
But if you like to consider this, I can certainly bring that information when you're ready to discuss during your budget deliberations, just to make sure that I address that question.
Yeah, I'd like to know, obviously we need to know if there's capacity for a project of that size in that area of the county. It's always good to have projects where we can, where we have help with maintenance and operation, because the impact fees don't allow that. So I'm very interested in the idea, but yeah, we'd have to know that, obviously.
Okay.
And so would we be, okay, yeah, I understand.
Yeah, I would also like to find out if we can support, not if we can support it, if we're able to do this within the confines of the impact fees, because $300,000 in Rainier is like $1 million up here. It's a huge benefit for the community, even though it's a very small community. So I support it if we can do it, and it's coming from impact fee fees. Gary, anything?
Yes, I guess I'd just like to point out that I agree with both you fellas on this discussion, but I think it's also a big benefit to regional economic development as time goes on. And we've got the luxury, as pointed out by Commissioner Mentzer, that we don't have the upkeep of the maintenance type problem that we usually run into. And we get the benefit of providing a pretty good service to the whole community, not just the residents of Rainier. So yeah, I'm very much in favor of doing something like this as we look into it.
You have what you need, Romero?
Yes, sir.
And to get back, you'll get back with the mayor?
I will let him know that you will be deliberating this request during the budget sessions.
Perfect, thank you,
I don't
sir.
think I'm in the position to say you have approved this.
No, we haven't. Okay, got it.
You can say there was interest from the board.
Unanimous interest. All right, you ready for 2021 the home farm phase 2 conservation agreement?
Yeah, this is mainly for your information in review. And let me give you a perspective. This project was awarded funding under the 2019 Conservation Futures Funding. And it was this particular request is to purchase 82 acres of farmland in riparian habitat adjacent to a land previously acquired by Capital Land Trust. And Capital Land Trust is the one who is pursuing this purchase. This property is located off of 113th Avenue Southwest between I-5 and Little Rock. The total project cost to purchase this property is $329,190, and the Conservation Futures Grant was for $151,839. And so this is the last step in the process. It has taken this long to get to this point to actually do the transaction. And this is just to let you know that I will be circulating an agreement for your signature to ratify this easement on this property after the purchase is completed. I just want to circle back. Usually we have this conversation in agenda setting when the board has authorized already those grants. It takes a little time to the grantee to go through this process. And again, I believe this is the final step, just to confirm the previous decisions by the board. And again, I don't want you to be surprised when I circulate this agreement for your signature in your next packet. And Andrew DeFoe is here to answer any questions related to this item.
Okay, are you looking for direction as well, Romero, out of this? It says direction.
You already made decisions in terms of allocating this funding.
Yeah.
And this is just the instrument to formalize that.
Okay. I was just looking at this, says review and direction.
Sorry, just review.
Thank you.
Could I get a comment on this, sir?
Yes, sir.
Please, yeah, go ahead.
I see on the signature page, it's a completely separate page. I don't know why it has to be that way. where it says approved as to form on the back page where our signature is, where Travis Burns signed it. Why can't that be on that one sheet of paper right there along with ours? Is there any reason for that? I always like to see where council signs. I sign right next to them.
We can certainly format it that way, Commissioner.
Okay, thank you.
Do you get that, Andy?
Yes, yes. Andy DeFobis, Community Planning. I'm happy to take a look at that. I think it's probably just the way that the pages fell, with all the text that's on there, but I'm happy to look at that and then get a revised version to Ramiro.
We'll put Gary and Travis on the back page.
Sure.
Ty, do you have any comments on this?
I don't think so. As long as Andy doesn't have anything to point out, I'm comfortable with it.
Yep, I am too.
Okay.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
2021 LTAC applications.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. Just about this time of the year is when we issue 2021 applications for the lodging tax funds. And the request for you is on the back page of this proposal is all the 2020 projects that were awarded as a result of that, of the grant process. Out of all those projects, none of those have materialized because of the pandemic. All those events have been canceled. And at this point, we really don't know when and if in 2021 major gatherings will be allowed, that is what I call the gist of this particular funding. As you can see in some of the projects that they funded, it was the Senior Games, it was the Yelm Chamber of Commerce event. So none of those have materialized again. So it's alert, and then the fund balance, they will be carried over in 2021. And I have attached a proposed news release stating that will be my recommendation for you to consider is not to go ahead and proceed with the grant application process for 2021, but wait until perhaps mid 2021, if that is the case, to see how the pandemic is having an effect or not on this particular grant. Because it really doesn't make sense, at least from my point of view, to go and secure applications on events that perhaps we don't know if it is going to be able to occur in 2021. So that's my recommendation for you today on this.
Okay, anything, seatmates, Gary?
Yeah, being that's one of my assignments, I agree with the county manager, 100% on that.
Nice to me.
And none of them taken place because of the pandemic. However, the Thurston County, South Thurston County Historical Society is looking for money for a position to fill for the Tornado Depot Museum.
Yeah, we have not received any warrants for us to pay out of this fund, as far as I know.
Okay. And talking with the mayor several days ago, we may see some type of request come through for that. Or they're still seeking that.
A request for what, Commissioner?
For funding to fill a museum director position.
So that would not be a permissible use of this fund.
Okay. Okay, they requested 10 grand and it says 3,000 was the LTAC recommendation. But yes, to fill a position, a director position, it's personnel cost. And or a project manager to finish their caboose they're building.
Is that the line item number 3 on the spreadsheet?
Yes, sir.
So the project would have been all about, they may have gotten there through funding a position, but the project that was approved was the ability to expand the hours, create the exhibits, and do those things that would attract tourism in. And I've talked to Robin about reaching out to the people who had awards in 2020 and asking them if they've had any costs. One of the things the MRSC gave guidance on this year was this fund. And if any of these projects had administrative type costs, even though the event didn't happen, we can pay those costs. They're legitimate costs. So we should be reaching out to all of these recipients and asking if they incurred any costs. I don't know if Robin's had an opportunity to do that yet.
Okay.
No, she hasn't. But certainly we can do that, and that's for the 2020, allocations. We can do that. That's a parallel track that we can take, obviously. But the request for today is to delay the 2021 award process. That is really the request for you today.
Say that again. It's to delay the what?
The 2021.
21? Okay.
Yeah, because I'm not arguing, I not presented to you any items related to the 2020. I'm just presenting this as a background information.
Thank you. Got it. Thank you, sir.
Normally, this is the time of year that we would notify potential applicants.
Okay. Perfect. I have nothing further on that. Go ahead.
Just one other thing. Yep. Robin has been in touch with folks over this, so just haven't got the information back yet.
Okay.
And I'll follow up with Robin on that. That will be Robin Courts.
RC3.
What's that?
I said Robin Courts is RC3. We've got Ramiro Chavez, Robin Campbell.
That's right.
Robin Courts.
RC3 CPO or whatever. Okay.
Okay.
And now we're at public testimony. Ramiro, anything?
I have nothing else for you today.
And commissioner items. Start with Ty. Do you have anything?
I do have one item. This has come up over the last year or so. I've had citizens from the Black Lake who have been talking to me about the hunting and shooting activities on the lake. And it's pretty complicated, like whose authority is whose. And so I talked to the county manager about the concerns and county manager said that when the census numbers come in, we sort of reevaluate those policies. And so I sort of told the citizens that we would be dealing with it in the future, if at all. And then the citizens came to me with a series of videos that I watched. And they involved, in October, the duck hunting season opened, but yet it was really good weather. So there were a lot of recreational users out on the lake. And there were videos of hunters setting decoys in front of a dock of a homeowner. There was videos of people wakeboarding and you hear shooting and really close by and stuff. So anyway, all of this to say that I have a bunch of questions about it, and I was hoping to get maybe some answers. But given the new county manager policy that we passed just recently, where commissioners would ask for sort of substantial sort of workup from staff would really need to come to the board, I think that's appropriate. So I guess I'm just raising this. If either of my seatmates have any interest in knowing the answers to some of this, I mean, the questions I have are about, there's some issue about baiting animals and whether you can shoot where there's baited animals. There's the hours and dates that shooting's allowed. The number of shots at a time apparently is some kind of an issue. The proximity of shooting and hunting to recreational users, that's a big concern of mine because I don't know what the laws are. I don't know what the rules are. I don't know if Washington Fish and Wildlife patrols this or if the county has some role. where the public access points are for hunters, because another one of the videos showed them coming in over the Evergreen Shores neighborhood, which which allegedly is a trespass according to the citizen. The wildlife management issue, I think the Black Lake Special District folks, when we asked them about it, they said, well, there's too many geese and ducks and we need that hunting in order to control they were sort of making the connection to water quality, that geese and ducks were, their excrement in the lake was contributing to, water quality problems. And so they supported the hunting. I don't know anything about that issue. And I guess just generally, what safeguards are there to make sure that if you're a fisherman out there or a jet skier or a wakeboarder, that you're not going to be shot at by accident or whatever. So I'm just wondering, I have a lot of questions, and before I can get answers, I thought I should ask the board whether there's interest in pursuing informational briefing or some kind of a staff report, just so I can make sense out of all this. I have no position on this really, other than just wanting to keep people safe and address the issues of the citizens, but I just have too many questions to really answer.
It seems, I'm sorry, it seems that Romero's going to know this, but when the redistricting lines come in, that we review, or the board can review all the shooting regulations in the county, because there's some spots that are still regulated as open shooting, and they've been developed considerably since this last ordinance. Yeah. And so whether it's poop in the lake and water quality, I've got to put human life ahead of that. Go ahead, Romero.
So when this item came to your attention, the commissioner mentioned, briefly mentioned to you that we had a conversation. I engaged Josh Cummins. So there is an opportunity for you to consider as part of the docketing process next year, where you can start looking in more detail, because it's a code component, I believe. The board may consider doing so. And I can certainly reach out to probably our attorneys to see what, what the role the county has related to open firearms or on those type of settings. I certainly not sure, but certainly I can start looking for some answers to those questions. But again, I have engaged Josh for the board next year to consider adding into the docketing process some revisions related to this matter.
I mean, I just think that there's questions that I would need answered before I would know whether I supported a docket item moving forward. Yeah.
So I will work on some of those answers as stated.
Yeah. I guess most all of the issues that Commissioner Menser brought up, I believe, are regulated by the state. The state claims the water of the lake body itself. They sell licenses. They do enforcement. I know things like baiting and number of shots and all that kind of stuff. They regulate everything that was mentioned, I believe, including the safety portion of it, on distance between, you can't be shooting towards somebody, all that kind of thing. Anyway, I think that'd be a good start to talk with the state Fish and Wildlife folks, because, and then there is that direct correlation with water quality, because what happens if you don't have something moving the birds away? Boy, I know I've seen it happen quite a bit, where when they're not hunted or moved on in some fashion, boy, it'll kill the grass in parks by the time those geese are on there regularly. You'd think maybe it'd make it grow better, but it doesn't. So I think all those issues could be kind of discussed with between water quality folks and the state game folks.
Yeah, there's got to be one. There's got to be another option. But I'm all for, of course, getting all the information, what you can and can't do, and all the options available.
Great. Thanks. That's all I got.
You have anything, Gary?
No, sir.
No, I do. This is a follow-up from the last Economic Development Council meeting of a week or so ago. And it involves the city of Olympia, but it also involves something greater than the city of Olympia. The old Continental Can, which is a Crown Cork and Seal off of Phones Road, just south of Pacific Avenue. Back in April of this year, they applied for an expansion permit, and it was granted in October. It's a $70 million expansion. It involves 323 FTEs, which is $25 million in labor income. They pay $3.5 million in state and local taxes. It's a 15,000 square foot expansion. And the reason they're going to expand, because they actually were considering, do we move on or what? And they're going to expand because the typical soda can, the 12-ounce pop can, you've seen the energy drinks, they're taller and skinnier. So they need to, they're going to retrofit some machines to hit that market, as well as a lot of the microbrews are going to cans now. Currently, they make 1.7 billion cans a year. They will be expanding to add capacity for 1.2 billion cans a year in capacity. And so when I heard that, I thought, wow, this really sends a huge message to local and regional businesses. Keep money local. There's still things to do and invest in this county. And they're going to begin that expansion next year. And along with that expansion is going to be a major Phones Road improvement, which it desperately needs. So I just want to share that information with you because that's really, really cool news for the city of Olympia and for Continental Can and the employees and the region. That's all I had. Romero, do you have anything? Or
No,
Robin?
sir. No, sir.
Robin? No. Are we going to be seeing more of you, Robin? Coming up? Looks like it.
Yeah, very soon.
All right. Well, that concludes the work session for today. And we'll see you again this afternoon at 2 o'clock when we convene the Board of County Commissioners meeting. Thank you all. This meeting is adjourned.